You ever notice how life starts to slow down when you hit your 60s? The things you used to do without a second thought, like taking long walks, climbing stairs, or even just standing in line at the store, suddenly feel a little different. The body doesn't move the way it used to, and for some, that's frustrating. You think, I used to walk for miles without a problem, and now I feel stiff just getting out of bed. But let me tell you something. Slowing down doesn't mean stopping. In fact, if you can't walk as much as you used to, that just means it's time to shift your focus. Because believe it or not, there are other things you can do. Things that keep you strong, sharp, and feeling alive, no matter how many years you've lived. Now, don't misunderstand me. Walking is great, and if you can still do it, keep doing it. But if you found yourself avoiding those long strolls or feeling hesitant about moving too much, you don't have to just sit around and let time take its toll. There are ways to keep your body and mind engaged without putting too much strain on your legs. I'm talking about simple, effective habits, things you can start today that will keep you feeling steady, capable, and confident in yourself. Because here's the truth, your body may slow down, but your spirit doesn't have to. But let me tell you something. Just because you're walking less doesn't mean you stop living. No. Life isn't over just because your steps have slowed. In fact, this is when the real wisdom kicks in. This is when you learn how to move differently, how to live differently. You don't have to feel stuck just because the years have stacked up. Instead, you adjust, you shift gears, you do things differently, smartly. And if you're willing to try, I've got 8 things you can do instead of walking that'll keep you feeling sharp, connected, and alive. First things first, movement isn't just about walking. It's about keeping your body in motion in ways that work for you. If the long walks are getting tough, shift your focus. Try chair exercises. I know, it sounds too simple, but hear me out. You sit down, get comfortable, and you move from there. Gentle leg lifts, arm raises, stretching. These small movements wake up the body without straining it. And don't underestimate the power of stretching. A little flexibility keeps you balanced, keeps the blood flowing, keeps the stiffness at bay. Now let's talk about strength. People think they lose strength because they age, but most of the time, it's because they stop using their muscles the right way. Lifting light weights, even household objects like a bottle of water, keeps your muscles engaged. And when your muscles stay engaged, your body stays ready. Ready for what? For everything. Getting up from a chair, reaching for something high up, even just maintaining your posture. Strength isn't about looking like a bodybuilder. It's about staying in control of your own body for as long as possible. And then, there's balance. When walking gets harder, balance becomes even more important. Simple balance exercises, like standing on one foot while holding onto a counter, do more than you think. They keep your core strong, they keep you steady, and they give you confidence in your movements. Confidence, that's what keeps you going. The moment you start doubting your own ability to move, that's when things go downhill fast. Now let's step away from the physical for a moment. Because staying active isn't just about the body, it's about the mind. When people start moving less, they tend to retreat into their own little world. That's the real danger. The walls close in, the conversations slow down, and suddenly, the world feels smaller. You've got to fight that. Keep your mind engaged. Try learning something new. A new language, a new hobby, even just reading books on subjects you never explored before. Your brain is a muscle too. Use it or lose it. And let's not forget one of the most important things, social connection. This is the part a lot of folks overlook. When walking slows down, socializing tends to slow down too. And that's a mistake. Loneliness? It ages you faster than anything. You don't need to be running around town to stay connected. Call up an old friend, video chat with family, join a group, online or in person. Stay in the conversation. When you stop engaging with the world, that's when the world starts to leave you behind. Now, here's something you might not think about often. Breathing. Yeah, breathing. Sounds too simple, right? But deep breathing keeps your oxygen levels up, keeps your mind clear, keeps stress down. Ever notice how stress makes your body feel heavier? It's all connected. Breathe deeply, breathe with intention. Make it a habit. And finally, let's talk about purpose. This is the big one. You might not be walking as much, but what are you moving toward? What gets you up in the morning? What gives you a reason to keep going? Because if you don't have something, it's time to find it. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be small. Something just for you. A project, a goal, a routine that gives your days meaning. You see, slowing down in one way doesn't mean stopping altogether. It just means shifting focus, moving differently, living differently. And if you do it right, you'll find that this stage of life, this new rhythm, is just as full as any other, maybe even more so. Let's talk about something most people don't realize until it's too late: adaptation. You see, the biggest mistake people make when they start walking less is that they focus too much on what they can't do instead of shifting to what they can do. They dwell on the things they used to do effortlessly: the long walks, the hikes, the trips up and down the stairs. And that mindset? It's dangerous. It steals your joy, robs you of your energy, and makes you feel like you're losing control over your own life. But listen to me. You are not done yet. You are not less just because you move differently. Life is about adjusting. You've been doing it since the day you were born, whether you realized it or not. And now is no different. Instead of mourning what's changed, you lean into new ways of living. One of the best ways to do that? Rediscover movement through creativity. If you can't walk long distances anymore, how about you explore the world in a new way? Have you ever tried painting, sculpting, woodworking, or knitting? These aren't just hobbies. They are new ways of expressing yourself, new ways of keeping your hands, fingers, and mind active. They require focus, precision, and patience. 3 things that keep your brain sharp as a knife. And let's talk about music. Music moves the soul, even when the body slows down. Playing an instrument, singing, or even just listening to music intentionally, not as background noise, but really, listening can change the way you feel in an instant. Music has a way of reaching inside you, shaking loose old memories, and waking up something that's been sleeping inside. It's more powerful than people realize. Now, speaking of things that wake you up, have you tried water exercises? Just because walking isn't as easy as it used to be doesn't mean you can't move. Water is one of the best-kept secrets for aging bodies. It takes the pressure off your joints, supports your movements, and gives you a full-body workout without the strain. Swimming, water aerobics, or even just walking in a shallow pool can do wonders for your strength and flexibility. And if you haven't been in the water in a while, don't be afraid to start slow. The key is to start. But let's take a step away from the physical for a second and talk about keeping your mind engaged in ways that truly matter. It's easy to let your days blur together when your routine shrinks. And once that happens, time starts slipping through your fingers. You wake up, go through the motions, and suddenly another year has passed. But what if, instead of letting time slip by, you filled it with something meaningful? Have you thought about writing down your stories? Listen, you have seen things, experienced things, survived things that the younger generations will never understand unless you tell them. Your stories matter. Whether it's journaling, writing letters, or even recording voice messages for your family, passing down wisdom is one of the greatest gifts you can give. Don't assume no one wants to hear it, they do. And even if you write just for yourself, it gives your mind a place to wander, to process, to relive the moments that made you who you are. Now, let's address something that no one wants to talk about, but everyone feels: the fear of becoming invisible. When you start walking less, socializing less, engaging less, the world starts to feel like it's moving on without you. And that feeling? It's painful. It makes you feel like you're fading into the background, like you're just watching life happen instead of living it. But let me tell you, you are not invisible. You don't have to be out in the world every day to be part of it. You just have to make sure you don't disconnect completely. Stay involved in conversations, in relationships, in moments. Call someone first, instead of waiting for them to call you. Be the one who starts a conversation. And if you don't have the same social circle you once did, create a new one. There are so many ways to connect with people nowadays. Phone calls, online groups, even just sitting outside where you might run into a neighbor. You don't have to disappear. And one last thing before we move on. Gratitude. When you start losing certain abilities, it's easy to get bitter, easy to feel frustrated, easy to compare yourself to the younger version of who you used to be. But the secret to aging well? Gratitude for what you still have. Instead of focusing on the things you can't do anymore, focus on what's still in your grasp. Can you still laugh? Can you still love? Can you still experience joy? Then you have everything you need. Because life isn't measured by how fast you move or how far you walk. It's measured by how much you live. Let me tell you something. Most people don't fully understand until they reach this stage in life. Your world is as big or as small as you allow it to be. You might not be walking as much as you used to, but does that mean your world has to shrink? Absolutely not. The only thing that truly shrinks life is limiting your experiences. It's not about how far you can go, it's about how deeply you can engage with what's still in front of you. The key? You have to stay curious. You ever notice how kids ask a million questions about everything? They want to know how things work, why the sky is blue, why birds fly south in the winter. But somewhere along the way, people stop asking questions. They stop being curious. And when that happens, life starts to feel repetitive. The same conversations, the same routines, the same thoughts circling around like a hamster on a wheel. If you want to keep life interesting, be a student again. That doesn't mean you have to go enroll in school or take on something complicated. It just means you start learning on purpose. Pick a topic, something you've always been interested in but never took the time to explore. History, science, philosophy, space, even gardening, cooking, or technology. The beauty of today's world is that knowledge is everywhere. Books, audiobooks, online courses, documentaries. You have more access to information now than any generation before you. And let me tell you something else. Learning keeps the brain alive. It sharpens your thinking, keeps your memory strong, and most importantly, it gives you something new to talk about. Because here's the thing about aging. People think they lose friends and connections just because time passes. But a big reason relationships fade is that people stop bringing new energy into their conversations. They talk about the past. They complain about their aches and pains. They repeat the same stories over and over. And while reminiscing is good, in moderation, you also need fresh ideas. If you keep learning, you keep your mind young. And when your mind stays young, your conversations stay interesting. Now, let's talk about redefining adventure. When people think of adventure, they imagine traveling, hiking, doing something physically daring. But adventure doesn't always mean moving fast or going far. Sometimes, adventure is about seeing the world differently. Have you ever spent time just watching nature? I don't mean just glancing outside. I mean really watching. The way birds communicate with each other, the way the wind moves the trees, the way the sky changes color before the sun sets. It sounds simple, but I promise you, the more you pay attention, the more fascinating it becomes. You don't need to travel the world to be amazed by it. You just need to notice what's been around you this whole time. And if you're someone who misses the days of traveling, bring the world to you. Can't take long trips anymore? Fine. Take virtual ones. Watch travel documentaries. Listen to people from different cultures. Try new foods from different countries. The world is still here for you, waiting to be explored in a different way. But let's get into something deeper. Emotional movement. Because just as much as your body needs to move, so does your heart. Aging comes with a lot of emotions people don't always talk about. Grief, loneliness, nostalgia for what was. And if you don't process those emotions, if you just sit with them and let them build up inside you, they start to weigh you down heavier than any physical burden ever could. You have to let yourself feel. If you've lost people along the way, talk about them. Remember them out loud. Write letters to them if you have to. Just don't bottle it up. And if you're carrying regrets, things you wish you had done differently, find a way to release them. A lot of people think regret is something you just have to live with, but that's not true. Regret can be healed. If you hurt someone, reach out to them, even if it's been decades. If you missed out on something, find a new way to experience it now. If you never said something you needed to say, write it down, speak it out, let it go. Because the more emotional weight you carry, the harder it is to move forward, even if your feet never leave the ground. Now, let's shift gears a little, because I want to remind you of something very important. You still have value. The world may seem like it's moving faster than ever, and sometimes it might feel like it doesn't have time for the wisdom of those who have lived through more. But don't mistake speed for substance. People might be rushing, but deep down, they need the wisdom you carry. Don't be afraid to share what you know. Offer advice, share your stories, mentor someone younger. If you see someone making the same mistakes you once made, say something. And if you don't know how to reach people, write it down, record it, pass it forward in whatever way you can, because your experiences matter. And that leads me to something I need you to take seriously: the importance of laughter. You ever notice how kids laugh at everything? The silliest things? Somewhere along the way, as people get older, they start taking life a little too seriously. But laughter is one of the best medicines there is. It lifts your mood, eases your stress, and makes even the heaviest moments feel lighter. Find reasons to laugh, even if they're small. Watch funny movies, tell jokes, surround yourself with people who bring you joy. And if you don't have those people around, be that person for yourself. Laugh at your own mistakes, laugh at the absurdity of life, laugh because you're still here, still breathing, still living, because no matter how slow your steps may be, as long as your mind is active, your heart is open, and your soul is willing, you are still moving forward. So here we are. We've talked about movement, about adapting, about keeping the mind and heart alive even when the legs slow down. And now, I want to leave you with something simple but powerful. This stage of life is not about what you've lost, it's about what you still have. Aging isn't a punishment, it's a privilege. Not everyone gets to reach this point. And if you're still here, that means you still have time. Time to grow, time to love, time to enjoy the world in your own way. Walking less doesn't mean you stop moving forward. It just means you move differently. Maybe it's through learning, creating, sharing wisdom, or simply taking the time to notice the little things you once overlooked. Your value doesn't decrease just because your pace has changed. You still have something to offer, to yourself, to others, to the world. So don't sit on the sidelines of your own life. Find joy in the small things, laughter in the unexpected, and meaning in every day you wake up. Because movement isn't just about the body, it's about the soul. And as long as you're still learning, still connecting, still finding reasons to smile, you're still moving forward. That's all that matters.